The following is a presentation of the Best Station. The views and comments made in the following program do not necessarily represent the views and comments of the Best Station.
And during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fast Pitch Game 13. I am your co-host, MC Brown.
I'm Eric Lindenberg,
the Doctor of Baseball, and myself here for another great episode. Actually, Game 13. And we are less than 40 days from opening day, my friend.
We are, and I can't wait. I know you can't either.
No. As of recording time, we are not far removed from Game 12, which means this is kind of a tag team edition, which we're kind of following up the themes we had from last show. A couple of your great segments missing from Game 12. We're actually going to be on the top of the show here on Game 13. We're not going to be without our social media, so we saved some great fan questions and feedback for you guys. And as always, we can be reached at The Fast Pitch MLB on Twitter, Facebook.com/TheFastPitch. All of our shows can be found on thebeststation.net from our good personal longtime friend, Craig Best. And Mr. Best also can be reached on Facebook.com/TheBestStation, where you can leave glowing praise for Craig at all times, telling him how great he is, and a special thank you for assembling that awesome show, Game 12.
That's right, he did a great job.
That segued into another great job that Craig is doing for us here in Game 13, which brings you a lot of great stuff, too. So definitely thank you to Craig. Thank you all to your great listeners that make this all possible as well, because without anybody listening, we have no purpose.
You and I would be sitting here just talking.
We would be talking about baseball without actually interacting with the fans,
That's
and it's
right.
not quite as fun.
No.
So this is great stuff. You got a couple questions or concerns?
Yes, I did. I had
great fans, so
more messages this week.
All right.
First one is from Harold Vandiver of Rancho Cucamonga, California, and he was mentioning our predictions for the National League West this year. And Harold says he wants to remind us the Giants own the NL West in even numbers year, and they own the World Series in even number years. And then he says, but the Giants are not superhuman. They put on their World Series rings one finger at a time like everyone else. Oh, wait a minute. Nobody else has as many.
Ooh, Harold, counting his chickens before they're hatched, maybe?
Yes.
Harold, hey, I predicted the Giants win. I'm not saying the Giants are winning at all, but I think they got this division. But an injury or two away to either them or the Diamondbacks could sway the thing either way. You might have a sworn enemy in Chuck Boyer, I don't know, who resident feedback. But I think the Giants have it, Harold, so I'm with you. It's the doctor who's hating on the Giants and not even picking them. I don't even know how many games.
I picked it for second place, but I said 10 games behind the winning Arizona Diamondbacks.
10 games?
Yes,
Wow.
10 games.
Yeah,
now, one way they might improve, never mind. I was going to say if they obtained Scott Kazmir to be a middle relief guy, but no, that wouldn't help.
That actually has been saved for the Dodgers.
That's right.
And Kazmir Girl 26, who your resident stalker, who may just get you in a headlock and shake you for a while.
I'm afraid.
Yeah, I would be. You got another one, right?
I do.
We'll jump right into it.
Danny D. in Las Vegas, Nevada. Danny D. asks, how come you guys, referring to you and me, MC, obviously,
all right.
How come we never talk about the player salaries being too high? Because they are. Now,
there's no question on that, and this is a nice segue, because basically we're going to kind of tie in our thoughts on this and make this our hot topic of the week, which still the same week as Game 12, so we didn't skip anything. What was this gentleman's name?
Danny D.
Danny D. So Danny, sorry not to disrespect you there, but Danny, we each have our thoughts on it. The salary, I'm more concerned with the pricing of taking your family to baseball being high, and maybe that's because there's not a salary cap.
I don't believe it ties into the salary cap.
I think there should be a salary cap.
Maybe so, but I don't believe the concession prices and T-shirt prices are because of player salaries.
Oh, maybe they're milking us. I don't know. But I would say definitely a game should be more affordable for like a four-person family to go see a baseball game. It shouldn't be us as normal Joe fans, and me and you are just hosts of the show. We're not making anything really from this to even.
Not to compare those
say
guys,
that, not even say compared to our day jobs, to say that we would have anything that would make us any more wealthy than a normal fan. In fact, if anything, I'm pretty frugal because I can't attend the amount of games I'd like to, and that would be more to do just with the average game ticket. While not as bad as an NBA game, it's still not as cheap as it was when we used to.
It isn't,
be kids.
but
I know you used to be a kid in 1924, but that would make it really difficult to go see a game for me, who grew up when I did.
Well, but here's
80s.
Something else, and this is why 80s. This is why I say that it doesn't tie into the salaries, because teams like, and I'll mention the Arizona Diamondbacks again, and I'm not promoting them at all. I don't want anyone coming down on me, but I will tell you,
on their salary.
I'm going to tell you that every summer baseball season, the Diamondbacks several times have a promotion where a family of 4 gets tickets to the ballpark, a drink, and a hot dog, $40 total.
And fans, if we had video right now, you would see the Doctor of Baseball dressed as Bobcat right now. He would just be, looking like a complete shell for the Chase Field.
MC Brown is hallucinating again. Don't listen to him.
He is still called Bobcat, right? Even though their stadium
Baxter,
is not.
Bobcat.
Baxter, yeah. What is Bob? What used to be Bob?
Bank One Ballpark.
Yeah, Bank One Ballpark. That's not their name anymore, though.
No.
Shouldn't he be called like Chasey?
Chasey, yeah.
Chasing
cat.
Chase?
Chasing cat.
Pennant chasing something?
Yeah, or you could say the
we can't bash him too well.
Swimming pool cat, because he's out there and hopefully ushering the Dodgers in.
Try to win back some Dodger Nation fans. Now, you already got Casimir Girl after you. You had another Dodger fan, 2 weeks ago going after you.
I took some heat from a personal friend this week about my comments on Andre Ethier, and I'm just telling you that I have nothing personal against him, but I have to call
fans. I'm not going to say that they're banging at the door, or studios here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the doctor on his way into Dodger Stadium is not beaten with fungo bats unmercifully by all these fellow Dodger fans, especially if he loses another bet to Chuck Boyer walking into
the bets are over. Bets are over.
I hope so.
I want to get back to our topic, though.
Gambling is wrong. Yeah, we want to get back. This is serious stuff here.
It is, and I want to answer Danny D on why I don't believe salaries are too high.
Why don't you believe that?
There are 700 major league players at any given time.
Correct.
That makes them the top 700 producers, performers in their field in the world.
Excellent point.
Okay, now let's take a couple names, for example.
Not very many from Japan. We're not counting them, right?
Yeah, we're counting Ichiro and his Japanese years.
Certainly, if you're counting Japanese baseball.
Well, I don't have the number off the top of my head. Otherwise, I would have said 1,500 or whatever. But let's get back to the ones.
700.
So, Clayton Kershaw, Felix Hernandez, Max Scherzer, when they go out to pitch,
studs,
50,000 people will show up, home or away. They're going to pitch to sellout crowds because a large number of fans want to see them, especially in the away stadiums where they may get only one chance a year. Now, when they go out to pitch, 50,000 people show up. That's that many more Cokes, beers, hot dogs, popcorn sold, T-shirts, hats, baseballs. They generate, and I'm being quite literal here, billions of dollars for Major League Baseball and their organizations. The salaries they get, what's Kershaw, $25 million a year, for example? That's a small percentage of the money he generates for his organization.
Well, let's obviously play. We could play devil's advocate, but not even to do that. Just to get to the real point of what Danny is saying, though, do you really need $30 to $50 million a year, which is some of the elite players could be making, in this game, to live a life comfortably? And I know what they're generating is obviously, like you're saying, and I'm an advocate for fair market. What's your value as a player, you shouldn't, if you take a hometown discount, that is what it is. But you want to get paid what the other guy's getting paid.
Right,
so if somebody else
value
is setting that, and that's what we mean by market value, setting that, you want to get paid. So I can't bag on any of the players. That's why there's a union. That's why they're getting paid what they're generating. But on the same token, should there be a salary cap on this? Because this is out of control. What these players are making is, and what I think Danny is saying, so much money beyond what is needed. How many cars do you need? And I love Reggie Jackson as much as the next person, but does he need like a whole mansion full of cars, classic cars?
Well, it isn't whether he needs them or not.
Arguably a kid's game for a living.
Okay, but playing that kid's game and excelling at it, no matter how good they are, well, obviously, no, they don't need that money at the end of the day to live.
They don't need that much money.
They don't need that much, but again, it's a small percentage of what they generate for Major League Baseball and their teams.
Well, and a lot of it's being this is the this is the economic world we live in. This is the how much more can we make world that we live in. There's been players that played back in the day and never even got a fraction of this.
Yeah, our friend Byron Brown.
That was one of the guys I was thinking of right now. And I mean, he would have loved to play in this era. Yeah, he would have loved to play in this era.
No, but you know what? I've talked to Byron about this, and he holds no bitterness towards these guys. He says they need to get market value, and they need to get, like I said, a percentage of those products.
How do you? Now, I'm not as familiar with it as you, but how is the Major League Baseball pension plan for these old timer players? So what
for people like Byron?
Yeah, like for example, to use our good friend Byron Brown as an example, is he getting
a
substantial portion of this because he's paved the way?
There's a fund.
Jackie Robinson paved the way. Babe Ruth paved the way. So
there's a fund that is deducted from all the Major League player salaries that goes into former players, retired players' pension.
Maybe it's not
enough.
And
it goes into theirs. Well, maybe it isn't, but I'm going to tell you again, there's only 700 of these guys.
Yeah.
And if you were one of them, I don't believe you'd be saying, well, you know what, don't pay me this time.
And I'd be all for that. I want to get paid what my worth is, and I can't bag on the players for that.
Yeah.
What I think the real reason is our listener Danny just angry because it's way more than he'll ever see in his lifetime, way more than
anybody
will ever see in our lifetime. I hope that's not the case, because what I believe he's trying to say in so many words, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is he being priced out as a fan to maybe, I don't know how many members of the family Danny has, but say he has 2 kids, 4 kids. You think he's really going to afford to go to too many games and see the team he loves?
Well, and that's the downside of this.
There's a lot of seats in that stadium. Do they really all need to be priced out of, like, say, Danny's price range where he could take his family to?
But again, when Kershaw pitches, I've been at Dodger Stadium many times when he pitches. It's sellout and standing room only.
You can't tell me that all of that is tied together, because the Cubs themselves have raised ticket prices to pay for all the renovations, the players' salaries, so they can be competitive and keep these great players that their great system is developing. And that all ties into, that's what they tell us as fans, that the ticket prices are going to.
That's what they tell us. That's the reason. But
if you're disputing that, you're also now you're going into another place where you're calling a lot of the executives and the owners liars.
Well, I'm not doing that at all. But let me add one more thought on this, because I've had this conversation with people before, and Major League Baseball players, the average career span is 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, we see the David Ortizes, we see the Miguel Cabreras.
Any DH, obviously, Edgar Martinez.
We remember Trevor Hoffman, Dennis Eckersley, 20-year careers. But that is the rare exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
So 4 years, 4.5 years, and they're done making that kind of money. They have to live the rest of their life, no matter what they're going to do. They may not make much money at all in future careers, but they will have that base. They can take care of their family.
So, in the state that we're recording this, and in the state where I, work my day job, there is no union fighting for me. There's no, if I get hurt in the job and or outside of it, I mean, there's certain rules, without going into any details, anything. There's certain rules that, we understand when we work in this state and stuff. So, with this, Major League Baseball has a union fighting for them. So you get hurt on, you have insurance, as a baseball player, you pay, or you have the pension, as we're saying. So, is it evenly distributed? That's something we don't have at our disposal right at this particular time.
Well, whether it's this state you and I live in or not, or one of the other 49 states.
Not everybody's fortunate to have a union fighting for your salary.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you and I were the top 700, one of the top 700 people in our profession in the world, we wouldn't be worrying about unions or insurance either. We'd be getting compensated accordingly.
Well, I don't know if that can always be determined by the job you're in. If you're doing a regular pedestrian type job, I don't even know if you could be ranked of anything to even be, say, you're the 700th or the 7,000th or 700,000th.
Well, maybe not. But
just
look at people that work in baseball, groundskeepers. Like we have friends that are groundskeepers.
Groundskeepers for sure. How could we gauge that?
Well, again.
How great do they cut the field, I mean, so a lot of that stuff, yeah. I could see where Danny's saying, I'm all for, and especially if a baseball player is to point a finger back at me and say, hey, do you want to get paid a fair market value for what you do in your job? I say yes, and hopefully I am, or I could choose not to work there. But, are these salaries just beyond unbelievable? I think baseball probably has, for guaranteed salaries, if I'm a football player, I'm looking at Major League Baseball and saying, I wish my salary was guaranteed, because unless they get those bonuses, they could be cut at any time. That's not the case with baseball. You're getting whatever you're paid for. And the union and Donald Fair and they fight for all these rights for baseball players.
As they should, in my opinion.
Yeah, but is it too high? And that's what I think our listener, and we thank him for this feedback here.
And I'll agree to disagree with Danny D and you, but I would like to hear some feedback from our listeners.
Yeah, I would love to hear from players too, or fans. I mean, obviously we're going to know, that are they getting paid for the yesteryear's players that should have gotten paid a lot more? I think we could both safely agree that they didn't get enough. Is it overcompensating? I think a salary cap should be in place. I mean, that's personally my belief, because I think, as much as I love my teams, I like to see parity, in baseball, because I like to see some of those teams have a fighting chance. It's always great when you see a team like the Royals win the World Series, who are, do they save more than they should? I don't have the Royals books, but I know that they're always fighting underneath. They don't have the TV deal like the Dodgers.
Well, and let's talk about parity. Houston Astros.
Yeah.
They have a very low payroll. They have a farm system, and that, I believe, is going to be the future of winning teams in baseball. Develop your own players.
You're going to have to, and that is the responsibility of the team.
That's right.
But I think when they become good, they have no, if you don't have the payroll of the Yankees to keep them, you got the Dodgers, Yankees, Chicago, teams just cherry pick them, use that TV revenue and take those players away from them.
Well, you want to talk about parity? When's the last time the Dodgers or Yankees was in the World Series?
Well, 2000 for the Yankees. The Dodgers, I mean, you'd have to dust off an old crusty baseball almanac to probably find that. I mean,
I walked right into that.
Yeah. But look at the Chicago team too. We could use the same thing. The Cubs have won in over 100 years.
They made the playoffs this year.
But they did make the playoffs. But so did the Astros and Royals. So I mean,
so did the Rangers.
Could that be coming back? The Twins, obviously, hopefully they'll make it again, because they were perennial in there. And,
the Twins. Yeah. Troy Hawkins, our listener,
yes.
Okay, we talked about the Twins.
Yes, there it is.
There we go.
But I don't think the longevity is there. I mean, you clearly look at the Marlins. Shouldn't they won 2 World Series off of great teams.
Yes.
Wild card, of course, and I have my thoughts on wild card in there, but it is what it is. They won it off the wild cards, and they had to dismantle their team.
They didn't have to, but they did.
Well, I mean,
maybe they did have to.
Maybe they did have to. Maybe they didn't have to do it to that degree, mind you. I think I know what you meant there. But should they have? They lost a lot of fans when they did that, both times.
Yeah, they really did.
And if I was a Marlins fan, I'd be pretty angry still to this day. So, this is a thing that maybe the Marlins could stay intact if there was an even playing field as far as salary. Luxury tax, I don't think is enough, because the luxury tax is, if it's the Yankees are going to keep their star players, they're not going to care about the luxury tax. The Dodgers. So, this is something that I don't think will ever go away until there's
I'm sure we're going to revisit this over the course of the season.
Yeah, and this is a hot topic, and we want to thank definitely Danny for bringing this up. And maybe we didn't do this enough justice and should have addressed it, many games and episodes ago. But we want to hear from you guys.
Yes.
I don't care if it's a player, associate, employee of the game of any form.
Coach
if you're
to clubhouse
listening to this,
boy, player to clubhouse boy.
If you're listening to this, you send us some feedback, and where you can reach us at the Fast Pitch MLB on Twitter, Facebook.com/the Fast Pitch. Send us messages, and let's get this topic rolling, and we'll be more than happy to talk about this again with more feedback.
I have a lot of discussions with fans at the ballpark.
Yeah.
When I'm announcing, I'll have people after the game even ask me about it.
So this is a good hot topic for you, and I think one of our better ones of the week we've had since our existence. We want to thank you all for awesome feedback this week, and unfortunately we have to take a station break right now, pay our bills, so to speak. But before we do that, we have our Who Am I of the Week. And,
who am I?
We're going to do that right now. Who am I? I was a pitcher at USC until my senior year when I was moved to third base. I played for 6 major league teams: the Milwaukee Brewers, Colorado Rockies, Seattle Mariners, San Diego Padres, Minnesota Twins, and Arizona Diamondbacks.
Wow, that's a tough clue right there.
I am a 2-time All-Star in 1997 and the year 2000. Who am I?
Tough one this week, MC.
We will find out after this. You are listening to The Best Station, the best music for the best audience. Find us at our home, www.thebeststation.net.
This really makes a difference. You really see a lot of results with this. Scott Kazmir with the Los Angeles of Anaheim Angels, 2-time All-Star. As a starting pitcher, it's really, really helpful because, especially balance, to be able to repeat your delivery like that, and instead of kind of falling towards the plate, you have a little bit more balance on your leg kick, and you just feel a little bit more comfortable. Core strength, I mean, you need that for everything, endurance, velocity, everything. It seems like when I take it off and I go through different routines where I need balance and core strength and endurance, I really just don't have as much as I do with power balance.
Some of us seem to strike out whenever it comes to taxes. If you need help getting out of the dugout, Serenity Tax and Financial Services is here to help. They take care of everything from tax preparation and audits to liens and levies and much more. They have offices in Los Angeles and Lancaster, California. If you want to hit a home run with your taxes, check them out at serenitytaxhelp.com for more information.
On March 3rd, join thebeststation.net as a new show covering the Cactus League debuts. The Cactus League Report with host Craig Best will provide you with all the scores from the previous day's games, along with the schedule for the current day so that you can join us out at the ballpark. Again, starting March 3rd, every day through the end of the Cactus League season, you will get weather reports, scores, and the latest news and interviews from the Cactus League. The Cactus League Report. Join us March 3rd on thebeststation.net.
And we are back on the Fast Pitch Game 13. And we want to thank them all as friends of the Fast Pitch, Serenity Tax. So we're getting to that time of year, Doctor.
Yes, we are.
And we have a reveal for you folks. And none other than Who Am I of the Week, Jeff Cirillo.
Jeff Cirillo, what a great player.
Yes, he played most of his, obviously, years as a baseball player with the Milwaukee Brewers. 2 turns with them. One in 1994 through 99, and a second when he came back to the team after playing for the Rockies, Mariners, and Padres in 2005 and 6. Wrapped up his career, and you didn't quite remember this when we were discussing this, with the Twins and Diamondbacks in 2007.
I do not remember that. But it's
Very
funny
briefly.
that, what a coincidence that Jeff Cirillo is your Who Am I this week.
Yes, and why is that?
Because I had a chance to talk with Jeff for a few minutes at the Brewers Fantasy Camp last week. And I want to say that Jeff is a really good guy. I've known him for years since he played for the Mariners. We have a good mutual friend, one of our guests, Jim Campanus Jr. He's a very good friend of both of ours.
Hopefully Jim is listening here to this, and hopefully Ed the Red is also listening from Game 12, who was asking about more guests, and we are delivering on command.
Ed the Red needs to comment more, because I think he's slipping around quietly listening to our show and then bombing with these guys.
Ed just, from his feedback alone, just ticked me as somebody who just might pounce on us at any time and just say weird things out of nowhere. But this was a good one because we needed some guests, and we promised some guests, so we didn't want to disappoint all of you.
And here they come.
Lo and behold, our second show in a row with a guest, and actually the first of 3, mind you, or is it?
Well, at least 2.
Find out. At least 2, but the doctor's hinting at something. But we definitely want to give you this one here, folks. So straight off, the hot iron of our good friend, the Doctor of Baseball. He's bringing it to you, folks. Here it is.
Jeff Cirillo.
Jeff Cirillo.
Jeff, when you were on the field, besides yourself, who was the best player you ever played with?
The best overall talented player I played with was a guy named Larry Walker.
Larry Walker.
Hello,
okay.
I know.
Okay, and what's your most memorable moment from your days in MLB?
I think it'd probably be when, I think the experience after 9/11, when we came back and played and the teams came together in Colorado. We played the Diamondbacks and we raised the flag, and just, it was the guy Lee Westwood, the guy that sang the song. He was there singing, Proud to be an American, and that was a great experience. The other one was when I came back in 2005 with the Brewers and fought back after 3 awful years and made the team and hit a home run on opening day.
That's great. All right, thank you, Jeff Cirillo. All right, that was Jeff Cirillo, who was generous enough with his time to talk with me last week.
Yeah, and just to mention, as you said, and you were telling me, you caught Jeff in the middle of his coaching during the fantasy camp, so he, thankfully gave us
he did. He was
time
very
right
kind
there
to
while
do
he was
that,
really
so.
busy. But yeah, it was pretty cool because he only spent, I think we had him as just, did he have just like one, I don't know, it was 1 year with the not the Dodgers, the Rockies? No, actually 2.
No, he was with them for a couple of years.
2 years, and he mentioned Larry Walker as his favorite player.
Larry Walker, that's
who was a
surprising.
great hitter, no
He was a
question
great
about
hitter,
that.
but you don't hear much about Larry
No.
these days, and it surprised me when Jeff said that.
Yeah, and some great memories he had of his games too, hitting a home run opening day. And,
when he came back to the Brewers after what he said 3 horrible seasons, but hitting a home run opening day, and then the 9/11 game.
Yeah.
How many players keep that as their favorite memory, I wonder.
That's pretty cool. So, yeah, what a great interview you had. And that's just one of many you did for the Fast Pitch while on assignment for, some of our friends in Major League Baseball. But you were telling me you had another type of surprise for us here?
Yeah, I do. And if you're a fan of the game, you will remember Jim Gantner.
Jim Gantner, so obviously we're referencing a lot of great players who share the same thing in common, being Milwaukee Brewers legends.
Brewers.
And that was your assignment, and doing a little bit of special assignment, special Fast Pitch for all you great fans that listen to our show. The doctor here took special time away from what he was assigned to do, and he got some scoops for us. So
I did, and again, I want to thank Craig Best, who produced that whole broadcast for the Milwaukee Brewers fans and listeners.
Craig, I've not ever seen a producer assemble a show as quickly as Craig, and
neither have I. And assemble a show and assemble a great show.
Yes, and we want big shout out to Craig. So again, Facebook.com/The Best Station. All of our shows found on thebeststation.net. Please do not be afraid to send Craig a message. He's a very great dude, and he'd love to hear from you. Just tell him how much you're enjoying the Fast Pitch. And again, without Craig's help, without you all great fans listening, we would not be able to bring you this great interview that we're about to right here, as well as all these great shows that we have.
That's right.
We're going to take it away. We're going to send it to the doctor here as he interviews Jim Gantner.
Jim Gantner, and here we go. When you were playing, besides yourself, who was the best player you ever saw on the field?
Oh, man, there's a lot of them. George Brett, Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Cecil Cooper,
You played with some of the greats.
Yeah, I played a lot of, Hall of Famers. Raleigh Fingers as a reliever, one of the best ever, and saw a lot of great players. So.
Yeah. What's your most memorable moment when you were playing baseball?
Probably Cecil's hit when I was on second base when we beat the Angels in the 5th game to go to the World Series. That was probably a great moment for me, and definitely playing in the World Series, and it's the greatest moment. At the same time, it's one of the saddest because you got beat in 7 games.
Yeah, that's a great memory.
Great memory.
All right, thank you, Jim Gantner. So that was Jim Gantner, MC. What do you think of that?
Jim Gantner, who running theme here is when you've asked these gentlemen, these great ball players, who they thought were some of the best baseball players. He mentioned Paul Molitor, Robin Yount.
Robin Yount, yeah.
Jim also mentioned Cecil Cooper, which was a big plug for Fast Pitch Game 12. Was one of our great.
And you might have heard him say when Cecil got that hit that won the game to put him in the World Series.
Set that up for us.
Cecil talked about that.
Yeah, exactly, and that is the playoff hit, right?
That's right.
And just great man. Sounds from it, and just surprise interview, just one of many for you folks. So the doctor here bringing all the goods, and
I spent that
want
week
to thank
on
you
the
very
field.
much for that.
Like I said, I was never the roving reporter before, and it was great. I had a lot of fun.
A lot of great interviews, and we're not done, folks. So we'll hopefully bring a few more of these with more in spring training to come, due to the connections of our prestigious doctor of baseball here.
Well, to get that doctorate, I had to make the connections.
And there he is. So we want to go to our regular segment. Obviously, we had... I'm just going to go out on a limb and say let's just hope that there wasn't any clamoring, because obviously the quick turnaround to record for this show, that if there were a lot of angry fans over this day in baseball, it is back, this show.
It's back now.
Game 13 brings back this day in baseball, so we're going to take it right into that, folks, and here it is. All right, so we thank This Week in Baseball for that nice introduction, and we're going to harken back, folks, all the way back in record time tells us this day in baseball, February 21st. And Doctor, we're going to go all the way back to 1931 for our first one. And the White Sox and Giants become the first major league teams to play a night game. The Buff Stadium, Houston, Texas exhibition game lasts 10 innings, with the teams collecting a total of 23 hits. So the first night game goes 10 innings.
And it was in 1924?
1931.
31, okay.
24, where's your head at? 1924 when you were born. Oh, yeah, that's what you're thinking about. So still keeping in that year, the Dodgers, in the same day, obviously, the Dodgers arrive in Cuba to start a series of 5 inter-squad games. Brooklyn right-hander Dolph Luck, known as the Pride of Havana, will appear in exhibitions scheduled to be played in spacious tropical stadium.
I don't believe many people know how far back Cuban baseball has been, how far they've been playing American teams.
Can you ask Fidel Castro to release Major League stats for you from Cuba so we can count them as well?
Well, let me give Fidel a call. I don't see why he wouldn't do that for me.
Yes, since Japanese baseball stats count, why not Cuban baseball?
Cuban baseball players are some of the strongest in the world. So
yes. No, you don't want anybody putting their cigar on the top of your head, so you had the right answer there. 1945, due to wartime travel restrictions, baseball decides to cancel the All-Star game. Wow. It is the only time the Midsummer Classic will not be played since the game's inception in 1933. I find that weird to be the Midsummer Classic in February 21st. So when was this season being played back in 1945?
Well, the whole schedule was revolving around World War II.
Yeah, so I guess the All-Star game was to be held on February 21st. That's
I wonder
weird.
Where, man. I hope it was in a warm weather climate.
And this is a special tie-in for all folks, and we honor and celebrate, as everyone else does who holds shows here in Black History Month, National Black History Month here, and this is a great one for you. Back in 1966, Emmett Ashford became the first black to be a Major League umpire when he is hired by the American League. Ash, known for his flashy style in the PCL, will spend 5 years in the bigs, working the 1967 All-Star Game and the 1970 World Series before reaching the mandatory retirement age of 56.
I remember Emmett Ashford, and he was flashy. He really... When he made the calls, you heard him and you saw him. He was flashy.
And I love that was on February 21st here, so we can tie that into National Black History Month. And definitely that's something to be celebrated there, too. Breaking down barriers was Ash there.
Yes.
1968, the first ever collective basic agreement is signed by the players and owners. The CBA increases the minimum salary to $10,000 and introduces a formal grievance procedure. So Danny may be mad that the salaries got up to $10,000 back in 1968. So look at this. We always seem to tie these in.
Yes, we do.
Good, don't
yes, we do.
So another tie-in. Back, we mentioned him before in a previous show. 1974, Tom Seaver becomes the highest paid pitcher in baseball history when he signs a contract for $172,000 per season, also angering Danny back in 1974, to hurl for the Mets. Tom Terrific has posted a 135-76 record during his 7 years in New York.
And did you notice in
Very
1968 it was a $10,000 minimum, and then he's making $174,000?
That is a gigantic increase.
Yes.
Danny, where were you with the picket signs then? Because that would have been the time. But Tom Seaver, obviously breaking down barriers and for his fellow baseball players, getting what, this is, I think, the turnover starting to say, hey, these owners are making a ton of money.
Yes. That was the reason for that.
So the balance of the scales, maybe it's over and tipped in the other end, but it's not like the owners are starving now either.
No.
So.
And Tom Seaver ended up winning over 300 games. Yeah. He was one of the dominant pitchers of his era.
We're a champion for, I think, the little people, it's safe to say. We are. To say that we would like a affordable baseball game once in a while.
Affordable baseball games, but I don't think it's up to the players to give up their salaries.
No. I think then there's got to be some kind of common ground. I like that the Diamondbacks, like you said, mentioned that special family day, and that's very important. So we need to see more of that. We're going to roll right along here. 1986, you might enjoy this one here, Doctor. In defiance of the Reds' policy, Raleigh Fingers refuses to cut off his trademark handlebar mustache and retires from baseball. The future Hall of Fame reliever, who leaves the game with 341 saves, had been offered a contract by Cincinnati skipper Pete Rose. also another former mentioned out here on the Fast Pitch, after being released by the Brewers at the end of the last season. So that was all the way back in '86.
And Rose, by the way, will, I know, be a topic on many future shows.
Yes, so Raleigh Fingers, one of the great relievers in our time.
He was one of the relievers who kind of changed the game. The game changed with him. He was one of the first closers to pitch like 70, 80 games a year.
And he would rather retire than shave his handlebar mustache. That is loyalty to the beard, my friend.
Yes,
loyalty to facial hair.
That was his trademark.
Yes, and I don't blame him. Don't tell Raleigh what to do. 1989, again, let's turn it back to Reds manager Pete Rose meets with Commissioner Pete Oberoth and Commissioner-elect Bart Giamatti, his Achilles heel eventually, to explain the allegations concerning his gambling habits. Major League Baseball will launch a full investigation to the matter next month, which will lead to Charlie Hustle's permanent ban from the game in August, all the way back in 1989.
Let me just mention something about that. Bart Giamatti became commissioner and had ruled on the banning of Pete Rose from baseball, but they were going to have a hearing to discuss possible appeals and possible reinstatement after a certain period of time, and Giamatti died of a heart attack.
Yeah, that was sad news.
And Pete has always said that his death is the reason why he was not allowed back in baseball.
I think that just these other commissioners are, you have obviously Ron Manfred now, and you had Bud Selig that also was just upholding and the words of Giamatti. So, is this an unfair thing? Again, that ties into what we were saying before, the band's last show. Are they too severe in baseball? We want to hear from you fans at the Fast Pitch MLB, Facebook.com/the Fast Pitch. Send us messages. We are not going to stop talking about these as long as you guys want to hear about it.
It's a very hot topic.
And we're going to wrap this up with 2000. All the way back on this day in baseball, February 21st, the last one, denying the acquisition of Ken Griffey Jr. as the reason, the Reds announced the team has dropped its ban of earrings. Players have worn them in the clubhouse, but weren't allowed on the field with them. But Griffey Jr. himself breaks down the barriers for the earring-wearing ball players all the way back in 2000.
And did they say they denied that it was him being there? That wasn't. Gee, what a coincidence! He just happened to show up, and they did that ban.
Speaking of coincidence, Ken Griffey Jr., another name mentioned on the Fast Pitch. So it's this day in baseball is our friend, and that's why we do this all great for you folks.
Right.
So we want to thank you all for listening for another great edition of this day in baseball. So before we move on to our FFT discussion, I'm going to just break the wall wide open, my friend, and we are going to go into our brand spanking new trivia.
And this is going to be exciting.
Fast Pitch Feud. So we're going to set it up here. Welcome to Fast Pitch Feud. Okay, Doctor, I had to let that play a little bit longer.
Well, and I want to thank you for writing that music and also playing saxophone during that song.
Yes.
It showed your multi-talented personality.
And the fun never ends here on the Fast Pitch. And we are going to bring this to you straight from back in the day. Obviously, we're big Family Feud fans, but we have Fast Pitch Feud. I'm going to run over the recap of the rules that I had mentioned on the Fast Pitch Game 12. I will be reading, and this will be the first exposure to all of you great fans here, so Chuck Boyer, pay close attention. I'm going to be reading 3 trivia questions. Basically, they're going to be kind of like the Fast Money game on Family Feud, and it will be an undisclosed number of baseball fans polled for these 3 questions.
That is right.
Which will increase the point values depending if you're guessing the right answers. But if you guess them all right, you have nothing to worry about. You're automatically going to be in the drawing for the prize, which the doctor will reveal right here for the first time.
The prize for this first edition will be a limited edition commemorative coin and card from Busch Stadium. And on the back of that card, it has a list of all the historical facts about Busch. and on the front, a picture of the stadium with the gold coin inserted.
That's impressive. And coming from a Chicago Cubs fan, we do not have any bias here towards anything. So you could also be like Chuck Boyer and trade this gift away if you're a Chicago Cubs fan at all. So don't let that stop you from guessing. This is a fun game. We've had some good feedback from it already. So you guys are going to have a little bit of time in between shows. So just to let you know, but you want to get these answers in because we're polling people all the way up to next show's time. So these answers are it's going to depend on can you guess of the mention of the fans being polled, and we got some great ones here, folks. So we're going to give you the questions. You're not on Fast Money Clock, except by next show. But the main gist here is answer who you think the number one answer is. So undisclosed number on the board. Our first question: what is your favorite ballpark in Major League Baseball?
Good question. I bet we'll get at least 30 different answers.
Favorite ballpark in MLB baseball? If you're not recording these yourself, folks, off of our show, you better be writing these down. Okay, next one. Undisclosed number of baseball fans polled. When you think St. Louis Cardinals, which ball player, past or present, immediately comes to mind? Ties into our prize.
Yes,
Imagine that.
Yes, it does.
Which ball player, past or present, from the St. Louis Cardinals, Cardinals, past or present, immediately comes to mind? That's the second one.
Yes, past, present, not future. Okay.
Yes. So I don't think you're going to win if you're guessing what you think people would say in the future. So, and this last one here, if you only had enough money for one item, what are you ordering at the concession stand at a Major League ballpark?
Yeah,
Three great questions. You're not on an hourglass, except that you probably want to think long and hard what your fellow baseball fans might answer.
Right. Now I want to ask you, because I'm not clear on that third question, is it at the food concession stand or the souvenirs or both?
Any concession stand. I would say I'd stick to food or drink. So if you go to a concession stand, what do you believe, if you have money for one item, what are you going to buy?
Okay.
So there's multiple answers we could give you. We're not going to tell you. You need to figure this out and get in the minds of all your fellow baseball fans and play the feud, the fast pitch feud, and actually try to be a prognosticator here because the prize is up for grab, as the doctor said, a great commemorative coin, and this is a fun one. So we're really gonna, we don't know fully what's going to happen here.
I'm looking forward to the feedback
and that's the thing. We have special surveyors out there. We have anonymous surveyors out there doing it. We've grabbed some fans from ballparks and everything. So we're getting a smorgasbord of people, and we're polling them. And it's up to you guys, you great fans listening here, to make the guess. This is going to be a little tricky. If you're Chuck Boyer, now you have to scramble and think a little bit. There's no quick answer for you now, Chuck. So this is going to be an interesting.
Chuck is the man, though.
Chuck is the man. I'm not. I'm trying to think of contests to make it harder for us to stump Chuck because this guy is just, he's like a hawk. He just attacks. And he's on top of these trivia. So now you have a chance, folks. You tie Chuck, even if he guesses right, you got a chance because you're also in the mix, and we draw a name, and basically it's anybody's guess after that. So we want to, all you feedback, give us some feedback, give us these answers, and what we want to see though is we want those answers. I mean, we could take them on messages because there's no thing in there, but, however you want to do it. At the Fast Pitch MLB, drop us a tweet, facebook.com/the Fast Pitch. Give us a message, but make sure it's in by next show. Yes. So the sooner the better. So these are three questions that I don't think it would, stump you too bad to think of these
fun
answers.
Questions.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun stuff here. So we ready for a hot cup of warm FFT here?
Yeah, it's been, we didn't have one the last show, so let's look forward to that.
And if there's somebody mad and angry at that, we apologize.
We do.
But we are here to give you everything you need for our...
and I believe it's a different position this week.
Position here. So I'm bringing it up, my friend. And it is the third baseman. And we're going to run down here. Obviously, the cool thing is here, we have and we may tie in one of our future Fast Pitch Feud prizes into the Fantasy League, because we're going to actually have a Fast Pitch Fantasy League, which is awesome.
Yes, looking forward to that. And I'm surprised by how many of our listeners that I get messages from play fantasy baseball, and look forward to this segment.
Yes, and running at the top of the list is, and he very well could easily be a number 1 draft pick, is Josh Donaldson. So as we're running down third baseman, as we always do on Fantasy Fan Talk, that's what FFT stands for, we're giving you basically now until the start of the season, we're continuing our series of positions. We've ran down catchers, first basemen. Now we're giving you some of the top names at third base, and the doctor here wants to give you Justin Turner.
Turner,
but unfortunately he can't because we're in the top 10.
Yeah, that's right. We're not in the bottom 30th.
So Josh Donaldson, as we said, in all seriousness, leads the top of the list. Possibly in the if you have a 10-team league, could be obviously one of the top draft choices.
I would consider that.
MVP, obviously. So
tremendous numbers.
As we learned last show, a former Chicago Cub briefly in their system, which breaks my heart.
I didn't know that. And that's the first time in I don't know how many years I didn't know of that.
Yeah, definitely breaks my heart. But we have a top guy too. So the Cubs are at number 4 with Chris Bryant. But running some of the other top choices, we have Manny Machado. And I think in recent times he's fallen off. His potential for shortstop eligibility, it's saying here in my notes. But if that's the case, that's not a bad man to have to maneuver around, depending on how many roster spots you have. Another guy we can't not talk about, and that's the great Colorado third baseman Nolan Arenado.
Nolan Arenado led the National League in RBIs.
Yes. Yeah. And he is a beast, and you could not, could do a lot worse,
oh, man.
Than him, and if he's anchoring your third base for your team. So as we're teasing there, Chris Bryant, he's also played outfield, so don't forget that. To have him as an outfield eligible and third base, that's like having a utility man right there, too. So.
Chris Bryant, let me say this. Rookie of the Year, obviously had a great season. I think he has an unlimited future. No ceiling on that guy.
Just the potential is unbelievable. Another great Chicagoan, newly acquired Todd Frazier. Rounds out third base for the Chicago White Sox, and I think he lost first base eligibility from what it's saying here, unfortunately, sadly enough. But he could definitely be a great power numbers potential there, because hitting in U.S. Cellular Field, he's not going to do any worse than he did, playing for the Reds as he did in Great American Ballpark. So we also have Matt Carpenter, who I think a couple years ago started to scuff a little bit. He was a stud, I think 2 years ago, 2 years ago. Not as good as he had been doing. He bounced back a little bit this past year.
I don't rank him in the top 10, but I do rank him way ahead of Justin Turner.
They got him listed second base, third base, not bad. I would definitely, I believe I would put Kyle Seager above him, and that's who, looking at some of our rankings here, Seager is up there, third baseman. I believe he was on your team.
He was, and consistent from start to finish.
Yeah, we also have a few other great players round out. Hopefully he has a bounce back here. That would be Anthony Rendon of the Washington Nationals. And Mr. Rendon had some injury problems last year. I would say that Rendon, probably, would be a good riskier late round draft pick. I don't want to say, I think I acquired him in trade in our league last year, where it came to the point where Rendon was one of those players that I thought, hey, once he comes back from injury, he's going to be a stud.
But he never really did.
But he didn't bounce back to that form, and I don't want to say it was a sophomore jinx, but it may have well had something to do. I mean, he had the injury bug. He had just not getting off to a great start, even when he did come back from that injury, and he scuffled. So I don't, just off the cusp, third base sleepers. What would you say? Off the top of your head from last year.
Matt Duffy of the Giants.
Matt Duffy, that's an excellent choice. From the San Francisco Giants. Matt Duffy had a nice solid breakthrough year.
Definitely.
That he would be a great sleeper. That might not be ranked as high. Let's go back to some of the higher draft choices. Runner-up Rookie of the Year, Mikael Franco from the Philadelphia Phillies.
Player.
Will he have as many RBI chances? It depends on that young squad, but he might be one that might fly under the radar a little bit, depending on who you're drafting with. If you have some savvy ball players.
I'd look at him later in the season.
Yeah, Adrian Beltre is going to be up there. Although we had a full drop him in our league, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
that roving spot manager league team we had.
Adrian Beltre Beltre is going into, his 19th season or something in Major Leagues and still producing.
I think if you can get him at a good value, along with this another player we got to mention, Evan Longoria, who was always solid baseball player for the Tampa Bay Rays. Miguel Sano, who played a lot of DH, but looks like he's still third base eligible going into the season, which is a plus for anybody who's a Twins fan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we mentioned the Twins again. Troy, you got to be doing a happy dance right now in Duluth.
Dancing in the streets of Duluth, as Harry Carey would say. Another great player who was, as you said, was... I would say not quite as vicious of a slide takedown as Chase Utley did, but Jung Ho Kong, how do you say his last name?
Jung Ho Kong. And he was taken out by Chris Coughlin of the Cubs. And nobody made a fuss about it.
I really remember that. But,
I do remember it.
Yes, he is also shortstop eligible, so that's something to remember, the utility factor in him. Some other great names. We'd be remiss if mentioning the guys who were in the World Series. David Wright and World Series champion Mike Moustakas.
Yeah, Moustakas really has an upside. David Wright, be a risk as far as I'm concerned.
But he's, healthy now, which is a plus. And other ones sharing eligibility, I mean, Daniel Murphy, who is clutch for those Mets now at Washington National, he's got almost entire infield eligibility minus shortstop, so Murphy might be a
good pick.
Great utility man out there to Duffy, as you mentioned. Look at this, Justin Turner. Potential first base and third baseman. He's ranked a little bit higher than what you were giving him credit for.
Well,
I smell Turner Girl 26 coming in, or what's his number? Turner Girl, whatever Justin Turner's number is.
But Justin Turner is...
I believe you don't even know that off by heart.
Well, I try to forget things like Justin Turner's number.
Redbeard.
He's Redbeard, that's right. He is the 30th, in my opinion, in Major League Baseball. And I'm not downing him. If you're a Major League Baseball player, as I said in the other show, you're one of the top 700 in the world. But I'm just saying he's not the best.
Every show, I want Alyssa Milano to punch you. So
you know what?
She may punch you for this.
For the good of the show, I would go ahead and let Alyssa do that.
Gloves or without, it doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter.
Brett Lawrie has double eligibility. He's going to be playing second base, but for his time with the A's last year, he'll be third base eligible. So that's another utility guy. Mr. Utility, we both have had him on our teams. Josh Harrison.
Harrison, that's
not
right.
Not quite as good of a year, obviously, he had 2 years ago, which
he was a hitting monster 2 years ago.
Yeah, disappointing. Yasmani Tomas, great young player, but he also has outfield eligibility as well. Another sleeper potential candidate, Joey Gallo, the powerhouse of the Texas Rangers, who didn't probably quite do what they wanted him to, although they still made the playoffs. Despite that, Joey Gallo will be entering the season on the roster.
He's a young player. He's one of those guys that's an up and comer.
Yeah, I mean we got Chase Headley ranked from our sources not quite as high, but
I put Chase Headley 29th, just above Justin Turner.
Yeah, Yankees third baseman, utility man for the Padres, Jan Jervis Solarte, former Yankee there. He's up there, and you could have sleepers. It's although he's eligible, Javier Baez of the Cubs is probably not going to be playing there, but he can be eligible to play there. Some bounce back candidates from injury, Jake Lamb. Will he get that time at third base? It's potential.
Possible.
Fighting with Tomas now that the outfield is a little bit more settled out there, but you never know. I mean, there's one less infielder to compete with, for time with
right.
Jake. The great Luis Valbuena, the powerhouse, but not quite average for Houston. He played a lot of third base for the Astros. He
did last year, and you know what? I remember reading the fantasy stats during the season while it was going on, and they would talk about the upside and downside of players. I remember them saying Luis Valbuena is having one of the oddest seasons in fantasy baseball history.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot too, because that's just some names that probably, unless you're in a 15 to 20 team league, they're probably not going to be starting for you. But Brock Holt did pretty well as a utility man for me, and don't be surprised if he gets more time for the Boston Red Sox. He's way low on the list, but I think that's probably not doing justice to that type of player. But a lot of good players, and we can't really show our hand, but I would say, our first names mentioned, if you get some of those guys of that quality, that's, I would shoot for that, because this is a position that's known for its, this is not like outfield. You're not going to have a whole lot of choices.
Right.
Once you get past probably the top 10, 15, players.
I'd say the top 8, actually.
Yeah, there's going to be a big drop-off. So, I mean, you get a beast like Josh Donaldson, you're going to be doing pretty good.
You build your team around
Yeah, that's no doubt. And then you got Arenado, Chris Bryant. Then you start to go, Frazier, obviously, as long as he keeps it. And I think after that, you get Seager there. I mean, you're going to have a steep cliff to drop off. So I'm targeting probably third baseman early for the sake of I don't want to be stuck with my pants down and have no good third baseman.
I grabbed Kyle Seager as third baseman in my first one last year. And he played all year for me, as you know, and he had a consistent year.
Yes. So, I would say make sure you get a good third baseman. On this edition, I definitely want to highly stress that. And this kind of ties into the interview. We're going to be going to our final station break here, but excuse me, you talked a little bit with Seth. Right.
About this. In our second interview, part 2, one of the first topics we talked about was fantasy baseball. Yes. Seth is a big fantasy baseball supporter. He takes part in the league, and he goes in a lot of detail, not only about fantasy baseball, but how it affects his daily life. It's interesting.
Seth is a man of many hats. I'm very impressed and very intrigued by this interview, the second part, and I look forward to the feedback we get as well from all you fans getting to know Seth a little bit better, a good, close, personal friend of yourself.
Yes.
And we can't wait to hear some more. So we're going to go to our final station break here. When we come back, we will immediately come back with Dr. Baseball's interview with Seth Swirsky.
The Fast Pitch will return in just one moment.
Christmas music too. Have you ever heard Michael McDonald's Christmas album? The Doobie Brothers, the guy. I love him so much. He has this Christmas album that's very beautiful. I love his voice. But he has a couple of original songs on it. One is so sad. It's like, it's Christmas in the hospital. All the children are dying. Mama's in a coma and Dad had an MRI. On Christmas Eve, I had a tumor removed from my buttocks. There's a morphine drip in my arm. On Christmas Eve, Merry Morphine Christmas Eve. It's fantastic.
All right, this is the Fast Pitch MLB, and we are back for part 2 with our esteemed guest, Seth Swirsky, today. Seth, we were talking before, when we first got together today, about fantasy baseball.
Yes.
And the impact it's had on your life. And a lot of our listeners are fantasy baseball players. We do a segment every week on it. But when did you get into fantasy baseball?
Well, I started in 1992, but when there was Prodigy. No AOL, no any of that stuff. But it was only a one-year thing, but I noticed how much I liked it back then. I was invited into a very, very competitive league about 3 years ago, and I had to kind of get up to speed. They didn't have whip back then.
That's right.
They didn't have a bunch of different categories, and I didn't know how these guys rolled in this league. I didn't know the difference between head-to-head and roto and a whole bunch of different things. So my draft was all off. I didn't realize that it's probably about 60-70% of the whole thing. You got to kind of, but I won my league last year, and it's a very, very intense league. It's 12 players, and we have 12 categories. We include holds and walks and things like that. I love fantasy baseball, and it's changed my whole outlook on not only baseball and my feelings toward it and my outlook on it, but also life.
And how is that? Explain that.
Well, I noticed that when the week starts, as an example, when the week starts, it's a Monday, and you have till Sunday,
right,
and you're adding up stats and things like that. There would be weeks where Monday and Tuesday would happen, and I'd be playing against a team that I feared.
Yes.
He had this guy, and he had Bryce Harper, and he had Kershaw, and before you knew it, I was down, I was losing 9 categories.
Right.
And I noticed that I felt bad. I actually felt bad. I felt like, well, it's confirming everything I think. I'm not that good. It became personal. And,
yes.
But I noticed it. I'm also a clinical psychotherapist,
yes,
psychologist.
Antioch University, yes.
Yes, so I'm attuned to recognizing my feelings as they happen and then analyzing on the go. I noticed that I would feel bad when I got way down in the not in the standings, during that week at the beginning. And as the week went on, my players started playing better and whatever, and I would usually win.
Yeah.
I've won much, much more than I've lost in my league. And it made me recognize, it's like anything else in life, when you think, oh, they've got Bryce Harper and they've got this and they got, I got Goldie. I got Goldschmidt.
Oh, you got Goldschmidt,
and
yes.
I got Greinke, and I got a couple of guys too, just because. And it makes you realize that if, just to throw out an example, if a girl breaks up with you, sometimes you think, oh, it was all my fault and I'm not as good and they're going to find another guy right away. And I'm, just giving an example. On the other hand, you got a whole lot of good things too.
Yes, yes.
And you got to be patient.
Yeah.
And it teaches you these little lessons as you go. It teaches you a lot of patience and a lot of confidence building things as well. So I believe that through fantasy, you can learn real things.
That is a great analogy right there.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's the same in business. It really is the same in business, because sometimes you think you're getting hammered on a deal, but sometimes you're not as good to yourself as you should be.
Yes.
You don't realize that you have, and the audience can't see that I'm putting quotes out right now, you have the Paul Goldschmidt in you. You have the Greinke as a pitcher. You have a bunch of great qualities, is what I'm saying.
Right.
That in time and with little patience, those are going to come out and you can start winning that deal.
Yes.
You can get into that good relationship. Just don't buy into the fact that you're a 12th place team.
Right.
You probably, likely, if you're doing a normal draft like most people, you probably have a pretty good team.
Right.
So you have to kind of believe that your good qualities, your Paul Goldschmidts, are going to come out. I know this probably sounds crazy to the rest of the world, but
well, we're talking baseball and fantasy, so it makes sense to us.
Okay.
I wanted to also ask you, because you are a well-known songwriter and performer yourself, do you think it's interesting how baseball and music, rock music, go together?
How do you see it going together?
Well, every stadium plays rock music before the game, and every player has a walk-up song. And I remember Mariano Rivera, one of his last games, Metallica was there to play Enter Sandman.
You know what's incredible to me? I'm going to not directly answer your question, but I'm going to answer you in the first thing that popped to my mind when I heard that question. I cannot believe, because when I play fantasy baseball, I've got the direct TV thing going where there's 8 games going at once, So I'm really kind of watching a bunch of games as I'm going to see when my players are coming up. I cannot believe that in the 7th inning, either the 7th inning stretch or when they bring in relief pitchers, when there's a break, and you can hear the music in the different stadiums. I am still staggered by how many not famous Beatles songs are being played in places like Arizona and Milwaukee. I'm not talking about Hey Jude and Revolution, the biggies, I'm talking about When I Get Home, or Sexy Sadie. I'm hearing songs that are not their first tier.
Right. I heard every little thing at a stadium last year.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's staggering to me that the Beatles catalog, all 236 songs of it, and that's a rough guess of what it is, they're still being played at baseball games.
Yes, and it's 45, 46 years after they broke up.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
that's like hearing George Gershwin when you're at a Dodgers-Cubs game in 75.
Yeah, you're right. And we talked about earlier, our generation, we were young when the Beatles hit here, but they were the soundtrack of our life for a long time.
No question. The fact that we can say we were alive and buying Beatles records at the time they were famous.
That's right.
That's a tremendous thing. That's like saying you went to see the new Shakespeare play.
Yeah, the new Shakespeare play. Yeah,
when he was writing them.
Speaking of the Beatles, you've put together a great award-winning documentary on the Beatles, and this veers off from baseball a little bit. But how did you? I know that you know Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. How did that all happen?
Well, I never knew the Beatles before I started this documentary, but I was in Liverpool, and my first album as a solo artist, Instant Pleasure, came out. It's 2004. I'm playing the Cavern Club, where the Beatles made their fame. I mean, it was incredible.
You had to be on cloud 9 that night.
I think I was more nervous than anything. I was actually calling the airport to find out when the next flight was out, because I thought, you know what, I can't play this place. This is too full circle for me. This is too crazy. If I flub, it will be just not good.
Yeah.
But I got through those fears, and it was really an incredible experience. Really one of the great. It was amazing just to even be in Liverpool.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And I took a video camera with me, just a junky video camera, no big deal. And I just started asking people, memories of the Beatles and stuff like that. It wasn't a big deal. But I started to get these cool little... I thought I knew everything there was to know about the Beatles, And they would just tell these interesting stories. And when I got back to L.A., I looked up May Pang, who was John Lennon's girlfriend, and she was in the music business as a representing songwriters, of which I was and stuff, which I am. And she let me film a story from her, and then before you know it, I was... she said, well, I know this guy, and maybe he would be into it. And there I am with Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues right before they went on at a concert. He said, do you have tickets to the show? I said, no. He goes, well, you're going to sit in the first row tonight. The nicest guy.
Yeah.
And then I'm up in... You have no idea. I interviewed all their ex-engineers and girlfriends and, Brian Wilson in his house with the piano he wrote God Only Knows and Good Vibrations on. And, no, I mean, I was really... The Doors and the Beatles engineers who would tell me stories. I interviewed a guy named Norman Smith, who was the guy that was the engineer for every song they ever made from 1962 all the way through and including Rubber Soul. So he was there through many incarnations of the Beatles. And he picked me up at the train station, 84 years old. And I have the camera on. It's in the documentary. The documentary, by the way, is called Beatles Stories. And it's just a compendium of about 100 different interviews I did with people that had a story about themselves and the Beatles. So it was just incredibly amazing and fun. And
yeah, and you won an award for that.
Yeah, it was in 20 film festivals, and then it was one of the Amazon top bestsellers, and I got what's the equivalent of a gold record. It's hanging on my wall for that. And a funny quick thing is right before it came out, I was at my gym working out, and I'm doing sit-ups, and when I was on the way up, I look, and on the treadmill right in front of me was Paul McCartney. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Now, I had met George Harrison back in the late 80s when we were both on the charts.
Yes.
And somebody introduced me, and I said, George, we're both on the charts. And he goes, oh, I know your song, Tell It to My Heart. I mean, it was amazing.
That had to be incredible. Yeah.
And I met him again, and he remembered my name, which is like, how is that possible?
Yes,
He's met everybody in the world, So he was an amazing guy, very nice guy, tremendously nice guy. So I'm sitting there at this gym working out. I see Paul McCartney on a treadmill. I had to get up. I see that there's a treadmill right next to his that's open. And I just got on it. And I'm looking over, and he's like going at 7.5 miles an hour. I'm thinking, this guy is 70 years old. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. And I'm going as fast as I can. And I'm thinking, okay, when he gets down, when he powers down, what are you going to say? And I'm thinking of all the people I interviewed for my documentary, for Beatles Stories, And I'm racing through ideas. I'll tell him I interviewed George Martin. No, he's heard George Martin's name for years. That won't interest him. Yeah. I'll tell him I interviewed Brian Wilson. No. He doesn't care that much about that. I didn't know what I was going to say. He powers down, and I start to power down. And he gives me a look. And he goes, the look said, you've got 1 nanosecond to get me a question right now. He really did. He sees my hair is kind of a Beatle haircut and all that stuff. He gave me a second, and I just turned to him, and I'm as close as we are right now, very close. And I said, you know what? I just interviewed Norman Smith, your first engineer, and I hit the jackpot. He goes, Norman Smith, you interviewed Norman Smith? We loved Norman. I'm thinking to myself, we. Him, John, George, and Ringo. I mean, when Paul McCartney says the word we, that's big.
Yes.
So we start talking, and we go into this whole thing, and he goes, I just want to tell you, you gave me a great gift today. Tell me your name again. He goes, and it was just tremendous. There's a crowd around us. There's a stories being told. And then I met his future wife, Nancy Chevelle, who I later got a copy of Beatles Stories to, and she wrote me this tremendous note saying, I just want to tell you, my husband and I greatly enjoyed your movie.
My husband, I love that.
Can you believe it? She goes, thank you for taking such an interest, as I have too, in his career.
Wow.
So everything that comes with something you do that's filled with passion, there's just so many great things that come with things that you love doing.
Yeah. You know, and it doesn't surprise me, these things that happen with you, Seth, because you're a warm personality, you're a nice guy, and you have a certain openness to let things come in, and you have to have that.
I think so. Like, why not? You know, it's all things are good in life. As Dennis Prager, the commentator, says, if it's not horrific, it's terrific.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
My son, Luke, my 13-year-old, reminds me of that every time I'm in traffic in L.A.
I wanted to ask you a couple more questions. I was told you sung the national anthem at a game. Is that correct?
Yes, Len Casper for the Cubs,
the
announcer for the Cubs. He was a fan of my books, going back to baseball letters, and then he was an announcer, I think, on radio for the Brewers. We just stayed in touch over the years, and then he became an announcer for the Cubs, and he became a fan of my band, the Red Button. We kind of do Beatles kinds of songs.
Yes.
I write those kinds of songs with my partner, Mike Rickberg. And he became a fan or whatever. We're messaging one day or whatever, and he said, "Hey, would you like to do the national anthem?" I never like to say no to something I haven't done before.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean scuba diving. And it doesn't mean bungee jumping. Okay? Maybe in my early 20s. But you know what? Now I can easily say no to roller coasters, all that stuff. Don't need to do it, right? But when it comes to something like that, I really don't want to say no. So I said yes right away. He goes, pick a game. And, late August, I think it was 2000, I forgot when it was, 13, 14, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a Braves game, a Cubs-Braves game. I thought that will be a good game.
Yeah.
So why not? I'll take my son to the game and we'll fly to Chicago and all that. And I'm just like, you're not nervous when you first say yes to something.
Yes.
But let me tell you something. When I was in the first row, when the crowd is filing in, and the usher says, "You're going to go out in 10 seconds. We're going to put you see the mic at third base, and,
yes.
and the Braves players are lined up. There's Chipper Jones, and you forget the words. I blanked completely. Yeah. Okay, and I went out there, and I thought, I'm going to not be able to sing this song. That's what's in your brain, when you try to have a cool veneer. And I got on that mic, and the moment I just said the words, "Oh, say, can you see?" You can't forget that, right? But the reverberation out of that stadium was so... I'm so used to being in a recording studio.
Right.
So I felt immediately relaxed, immediately at home.
Right.
Hearing, say, "Can you see, that kind of thing, that I started to get into it. And I just wanted to sing it very simply, and I don't have the vocal chops to do all those vocal tricks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it anyway. But it was just a tremendous thing that Len gave me that great opportunity, and it was just so incredible to actually do. It's one thing to say yes, but it's another thing to actually do it.
That's right. Let me ask you this, because as a baseball announcer for many years, I've done a lot of on the field prepping the fans, firing the fans up, that type of thing. And I get an energy from them that is unbeatable. And did you get that feeling too?
Yes, that's a great question. When I started singing and I noticed that I wasn't nervous, and I knew I wasn't going to forget the words, I felt comfortable the moment I heard the reverberation, as I mentioned to you. I was able then to, as I was singing it, to look at the crowd. I've been in the crowd hundreds of times. I've never been singing to a crowd. I've never been in that large stadium to sing in.
Yes.
And I just noticed the crowd, and it was just like we had a little bond going. There was this bond. I think they appreciated the fact that I was singing it very straight, which is about as good as I could do. There was I didn't have too much of a choice, to be honest with you. And what was so thrilling was when it was over, and I was walking up through the stadium to, they were taking us to our seats, and a lot of people, they're patting you on the back. "Hey, I love that. That was great," or whatever. I was just like no other. There's another example of baseball giving you a great life experience.
That's right. That's right. Well, we've run out of time here, Seth. I wanted to mention, though, if people want to get a hold of you on Facebook or websites, how do they do that?
Well, my Facebook page is totally open. It's just Seth Swirsky, as it sounds. And my website is seth.com. And I have a new solo record coming out called Circles and Squares.
Yeah, when is that coming out?
It's coming out in mid-April.
Okay.
and it's very, it's pop music, Beatles-oriented type music, lots of harmonies and 2.5-minute pop songs, and just try to have a good time. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, Seth. And I just want to ask you, will you join us again?
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Okay, I'll be back here in Los Angeles probably in April or May, and I'd love to get together again.
Terrific, anytime.
Okay, and I want to again thank Seth Swirsky for taking the time out of his day to spend an afternoon with me and speaking. It was a fascinating interview, MC, didn't you think?
Yes, awesome interview with Seth, and we got to know a lot of stuff, and I wouldn't have guessed with as many things that Seth has on his plate that he was that big of a baseball fan. But as we talked to him and got to know him on last show and this show, just obviously the versatility and just talented individual here, but just a gigantic baseball fan. And
yes, he's a class act, I will tell you that. Again, Seth is a friend, but he is a class act, a talented guy. And I thought it was interesting when he talked about how baseball and rock music tie together. Interesting.
Oh, there's
stuff.
a gigantic correlation to that. I played music for Peoria Stadium in my time there, as you well know, and that controls the whole mood. And baseball is a huge part of it. Now it's like entrance music, like professional wrestling. Coming up to the plate. All you need is an announcer doing it. But the walk up music sets the mood, and basically, if we pulled some players, hypes them up to get to that plate. And music and baseball.
And Seth is.
Forever.
I'll tell you what, the documentary he did on the Beatles, the books he's written about baseball, the songs he's written and performed. The guy, if you want to talk baseball, music, the Beatles, you will not find more of an expert than him.
And we'll be plugging and linking our stuff to Seth, so you can hopefully send him a message or request. Right. I'm sure Seth would love to hear from you as well on our social media. So just to give you guys a reminder, we can always, as always, be reached at the Fast Pitch MLB, Facebook.com/the Fast Pitch, under the umbrella of our great friend Craig Best, who I can't speak highly enough of Craig for, we gave Craig a lot of stuff to assemble for these last two shows, and Craig is just a beast here and got these up for you guys so you can listen to them. And he's, Craig, under the beststation.net, click on the sports link and you'll find our podcast all archived, all the hard work of, not just myself and the doctor, but Craig to get these up.
And I've known Craig. I've worked in Major League Baseball for 18 years. A lot of years I've known Craig, and I have never worked with a better producer.
No, that's why he's the best.
Hands down. That's why he's the best.
So definitely, and I can't stress this enough, I want to make sure give you guys a platform, Facebook.com/the best station, to let Craig know, hey, thanks for doing this. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to listen to MC and the doctor, bring the show for all you guys. And I want to thank Craig. Thank you all again for listening. We're loving the feedback. So again, we got some great stuff for you guys. We want to hear your spring training memories. We want to get your fast pitch feud questions in. Don't waste any time. Don't delay, because Chuck Boyer will sneak in there and get those in there. So we want to hear feedback from all sorts of things. Our hot topic of salaries in baseball. I don't care what it is. We don't care what it is. Give us some feedback.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
And we will definitely talk about it. So we're out of time, folks. We want to thank you all for listening. Thank you to our guests, Seth Swirsky, Jim Gantner, Jeff Cirillo. Again, we want to repeat that we thank our special guests from last show as well, which tied into this, Cecil Cooper, Bill Schroeder, and the many more we're going to be bringing to you soon. So we thank all of our special guests, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you all for listening.
And
have
a Fast Pitch. I am MC Brown.
I'm Eric Lenneberg. And folks, please have a great week wherever you may be.
Thank you for listening. This has been Game 13 of the Fast Pitch.